The room fell silent the moment I spoke. I looked my husband straight in the eyes. One more comment from your mother about my salary and I'm done being polite. I'll explain to her myself where she stands, and why my money is not hers. Do you understand? For the first time in our 7-year marriage, Ethan looked afraid of me. My name is Savannah Pierce. I was 31, a senior financial analyst and the highest earner in our household. That never bothered me. What bothered me was that my mother-in-law acted as though every dollar I earned belonged to her. 3 nights earlier she had been sitting at our dining table, sipping the wine I had bought, when she casually asked why I hadn't increased the amount I sent her each month. She didn't ask for help. She expected it. When I reminded her that I wasn't responsible for funding her lifestyle, she laughed. Everything a wife earns belongs to the family. Not my family. Her family. Ethan sat there in silence, staring at his plate while his mother examined my finances as if she were reviewing a company's budget. Now, after my warning, he finally spoke. And what he said changed everything. He rubbed both hands across his face before sighing. I think you're overreacting, Savannah. That was all. No defense. No apology. No acknowledgement of how insulting his mother's words had been. Just a calm dismissal, as if I were upset about dirty dishes instead of years of disrespect. I stared at him. Overreacting. She doesn't mean it the way you take it. The words hurt more than I expected because deep down I knew what they really meant. He wasn't staying neutral. He wasn't caught between his wife and his mother. He had already chosen a side. I walked into my home office, closed the door and sat there for hours replaying every uncomfortable moment I had ignored. The surprise requests for money. The comments about my bonuses. The questions about my savings. And the strange way his mother always knew things I had told only Ethan. My raises, my investments, my retirement plans, even exact numbers. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. The next morning I opened our shared household budgeting folder. At first everything looked normal. Then I noticed a spreadsheet I didn't recognize. It wasn't mine. The title was vague, but when I opened it my heart nearly stopped. Inside was a complete breakdown of my personal finances. At the top of the document, the author's name wasn't Ethan. It was his mother. I refreshed the page, convinced I had read it wrong. I hadn't. Every detail was there. My salary. My projected annual bonuses. My retirement contributions. Even private investment accounts that had nothing to do with our household budget. Everything was organized into neat, color-coded sections with future income estimates. Then my eyes landed on a comment at the bottom. Asterisk. If Savannah gets the promotion, her monthly contribution can increase by at least 40%. My hands began to shake. Contribution. Not savings. Not household expenses. Contribution. As if I were nothing more than a paycheck. I called Ethan immediately. Why does your mother have information about accounts I've never shared with her? Silence. Then a long sigh. Savannah. Calm down. The worst possible answer. How did she get this information? She was only helping us plan. Helping who? You know Mom worries about the future. I let out a short, bitter laugh. Your mother is planning my income like she owns it. He didn't deny it. That scared me more than anything. That evening I drove straight to my bank. I changed every password. Updated every security setting. Removed every shared authorization connected to my accounts. For the first time I stopped treating the situation like an annoyance and started treating it like a real threat. When I returned home, Ethan was waiting in the kitchen. His face was unusually pale. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. Mom knows you changed everything. I slowly placed my purse on the counter. How does she know that? Ethan looked away. That tiny movement told me everything before he even answered. She called me. His jaw tightened. She got a notification. My heart sank. A notification from what? Neither of us spoke for several long seconds. Then the truth came out. She was listed as an emergency contact on one of the accounts. I stared at him. One account might explain one notification, Ethan. It doesn't explain years of knowing my salary, my bonuses, my investments, or my retirement plans. He looked down at the floor. She's been tracking my finances for years. She wasn't tracking you. Then what was she doing? He opened his mouth, then closed it again. His silence was answer enough. That night, after Ethan fell asleep, I carried my laptop into the living room and pulled up every financial record I owned. Bank statements, tax returns, insurance policies, investment accounts. At that point, I wasn't looking for proof anymore. I was looking for damage. Just before midnight, I found it. A transfer request. Not completed. Not approved. But created. $25,000. The request had been submitted 3 months earlier before being cancelled. I looked at the destination account. The account holder's name made my stomach twist. My mother-in-law. Only one other person besides me had enough access to create a request like that. I slowly looked toward our bedroom door. For the first time since our wedding day, I wondered whether my husband had ever been protecting me, or whether he had always been protecting her. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same number. $25,000. Cancelled or not, someone had believed they had the right to move my money. At 6 the next morning, Ethan walked into the kitchen and froze. Financial records covered the table. He knew immediately. The color drained from his face. Savannah, don't. I slid the printed transfer request across the table. Explain this. He stared at the paper far too long. Finally, he whispered, I can explain. Another terrible answer. Then explain. He lowered himself into a chair. Mom was having financial problems. I let out a bitter laugh. Financial problems don't give her permission to touch my accounts. She was desperate. No. I shook my head. She was entitled. His eyes stayed fixed on the paper. Then at last he admitted the truth. The transfer request hadn't been created by his mother. It had been created by him. For a moment the room felt too small to breathe. You tried to transfer my money to your mother? I cancelled it. After you got caught? No. Then why? His voice cracked. Because she wouldn't stop pressuring me. For one brief second I almost felt sorry for him. Then he said the sentence that destroyed every bit of sympathy I had left. I honestly didn't think you'd notice. Something inside me quietly broke. I expected to feel rage. I felt clarity. The kind that comes after years of making excuses for someone who never deserved them. You didn't think I'd notice, I repeated. He nodded. Not proudly. Just honestly. For years I had trusted him completely. I earned most of our income. He handled many of the administrative details. The trust one gave him had become an opportunity he chose to abuse. I stood. Where are you going? He asked. To protect myself. The next 48 hours changed my life. I hired an attorney. Opened new bank accounts. Separated every financial connection that legally belonged to me. My attorney listened without interrupting. Finally she asked one question. Do you have evidence? I handed her screenshots, emails, bank records, and the cancelled transfer request. She studied everything carefully before looking up. Keep documenting every interaction. That evening my mother-in-law showed up at our front door without warning. She walked inside as though she still had the right. Ethan says you're making a huge mistake. I met her eyes calmly. No. The mistake was trusting people who saw me as a paycheck. Her expression hardened. Then she smiled. Families don't recover from selfish decisions. Sounded like advice. It was a threat. Instead of feeling intimidated, I smiled. For the first time I knew something she didn't. She noticed immediately. What are you smiling about? The house. Her confidence slipped. What about it? For years she had spoken about our home as though it would someday belong to her family. She had never cared about the paperwork. I had. The house is mine. She laughed. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. I walked to a cabinet, removed a folder, and placed it in front of her. Every document told the same story. The down payment came from me. The mortgage was based on my credit. The title carried only one name. My. The color disappeared from her face. She slowly turned toward Ethan. You knew. He couldn't answer. That silence said everything. You hid this from me. I didn't hide anything, I replied. You simply assumed everything I owned would eventually become yours. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked shaken. She stood abruptly. You're tearing this family apart. I held her gaze. No. I'm exposing what this family really became. She stormed out. Ethan followed without another word. A few hours later my phone rang. It was my attorney. Her voice was calm but serious. Savannah, we found something. My grip tightened around the phone. What is it? The transfer request wasn't the only incident. My heart stopped. She explained that several inquiries had been made about my accounts over the past few years. Requests for account information, ownership details, available balances. None of them came from strangers. They all traced back to people connected to Ethan. The case had changed. This was no longer just a family dispute. There was documented evidence of repeated attempts to gain access to my finances. The next day Ethan came home looking exhausted. His mother wasn't with him. Neither was the confidence he'd hidden behind for years. I messed up, he said quietly. I believed him. That was the tragedy. He wasn't cruel. He was weak. And his weakness had nearly cost me everything. I spent years defending you, I said. I know. No, you don't. If he truly understood what he had done, he never would have traded my trust for his mother's approval. The divorce moved forward. The house stayed with me. My finances remained secure. And the people who believed they were entitled to my success lost access to every part of it. Months later, I sat alone on my patio, watching the sun disappear beyond the horizon. For the first time in years, the silence felt peaceful. In the end, the money wasn't the victory. My freedom was.